minute, we are going to talk about underlying debt in the economy. So last week in Overtime, if you guys are subscribed to Overtime, if you're not, it should be. It's definitely worth it. Gary just goes completely unhinged.
Raving lunatic.
But you mentioned to me that you felt like the hard times are still coming and that you see the cracks, and that from the private lending that you do and stuff like that, you see that there's still,
there's a lot of debt and equity to get flushed out of the system, is my belief. And the reason that is because in our culture in the last 25 years, I don't know if I've said this on here before, but I can't say it enough because it's very interesting. It makes people do things they shouldn't do. In the last 25 years in the Fraser Valley, if you bought something, a hard asset, land, house, anything, and you hung on to it, did not matter how much you paid for it. You could pay any amount and you couldn't even afford it. It did not matter. If you bought it and you could somehow hang on to it through the cycle, through the 08, through the 2015, into 16, 17 saved you. And then maybe 2018, 19 was tough, but that in 2020, they lowered, interest rates to the floor and turned on the printing presses in COVID, and you got saved one more time. And now, like, we're in this weird spot of like prices are definitely not crashing, but they've come down a lot. Like there's townhouses. I know I sold my very first place I ever sold for somebody. I sold for $895 in 2022 in the winter of like January of 2022. And now that place would sell for, let's say, $650, $700. So that's a substantial drop, 25%. It's quite a bit, especially because the first 25% that you pay off in a mortgage takes, I think,
there's majority of that time.
Well, a good chunk of it. Like it takes way more than first 25% of your year, way more than 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Because a bigger portion is going to interest. So it's fascinating that what I'm seeing is just in the space I'm in, is that all the speculative stuff, like land in particular, like chunks of land, like I do a bit of, like you said, a bit of private financing with some different guys. And there's pieces where, we're foreclosing on people now because all of a sudden they're realizing, and the money just ran out. Before you could just refinance. You waited 2 years, 3 years, land went up enough, you get a new appraisal, refinance. And that has come to an end. And so, it's just getting tougher and tougher to borrow money, and banks aren't near as at risk because the banks that we have in Canada are risk adverse as a general rule. And some of them have gotten in deep trouble. There's, people that know.
The rules here are much tighter than the States. That's why the big, in 08, whatever, the big crash that happened was because the banks in the States were a lot less tight on their rules.
Yeah. But in the private lending space, in the space that I'm in, there's no rules. Like you can lend to anybody. Yeah. And there's, I did a deal recently, saw a deal where it's like, basically there's X amount lent and the appraisal that came in was 5 times the value, like 4 times the value of the money lent. And it was totally a bogus appraisal. Like now in hindsight, everybody's doing their due diligence, and could it be argued that in time it would be worth that, or with everything put together? Yes. But the piece of dirt that was lent on in that moment. So that's the kind of stuff where the real value, and this is what drives me crazy. I hate appraisals. I hate when people talk about what something appraised at. Like something is worth whatever someone's willing to buy it for in that moment in time, that day. That's why I love the auction business, because what it sells for, that's what it's worth. Like everybody saw it. That anybody that thought it was a good deal could have bought it in that moment, right? Yeah. And they didn't. So that's what it was worth. Like when people start debating about what value is and like an appraisal on a house, I'm like, the house is worth whatever someone paid for it. And you don't get to talk about what you think it's worth or what your neighbors sold for. It's like, no, your place is your place.
If you're lending though, you want to have some sort of gauge.
Yeah, and they use that. But the issue is, in my opinion, is that appraisers would maybe disagree, but I feel like appraisers tend to appraise aggressively. They have often asked me, hey, what did you pay for it? It should have no bearing what I paid for it. Yeah. Like you don't need to come in high for me to get the bank to give me the money.
So what does an appraiser actually base it off of?
You base it off other sales.
And during that time.
Yeah, and that's fair. But if they have a bias to do, why would they have a bias to do it higher? What would happen if all the appraisals were coming in way lower than what needed? What would happen?
You would get different appraisers.
You'd have a hard time. Would you have a hard time buying the place? Would you have a hard time getting the money? Yes, you would. And that would stop the cycle, right? Like it's beneficial for everybody in the game that collects a check, like me as realtors, appraisers, and brokers, for stuff to keep going up.
But if you know one appraiser is like generally like pretty generous, and the other appraiser generally gets a name.
Yeah, there are those kind of guys.
You're going to be calling always the guys that, like,
if you want the money.
Yeah.
If you're buying something from family and you want to get a deal, you're calling the cheap guy. It's not supposed to be like that, right? I mean, ideally.
Well, okay, so practically though, like if someone listening, what practically does this difference does it make in and how they should live or how they should approach the future and stuff like that? Because
my only caution is that when you go into buying the biggest asset of your life, don't assume that it's going to go up and go up a lot. And it's very deceiving to people like me that have owned real estate. And I mean, I have bought and sold a lot of real estate myself personally, not as a realtor, but myself, and done really well. But I will be the first to say that it was all about timing. I'm not taking any credit. And so what happens when you hit home runs, right? You get risk. You get maybe take along a little bit too much risk. You get a little naive to the fact that things do correct, and you have to be able to survive troughs.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're buying your primary residence and you know you're going to live there for a long time, and you just need a house to live in, and you know what, rent's expensive, it totally makes sense. I'm not anti-buying.
Well, I mean, we'll talk about it next week. Like I think greed comes into play. You know, like a lot of those times, if you're, you know, or you're spending more than comes in.
Yeah, or you're house poor. It's like you could find a cheap house to rent, but you're like, no, we got to buy something. And so you're just stretched to like, it's just not a fun way to live, right? So, yeah, I mean, I get a bad rap from some of my buddies as a Debbie Downer, and I'm not. And I would say that everybody should own real estate if they feel comfortable with it and they can afford the payment, like to own real estate. Like I would say that as a blanket statement. But some people shouldn't. Some people don't want the headache of replacing a roof on a house. Well,
no, but even like for me, so I sold my plate. So I bought my first house in 2015 for $261, sold it for $750. Then I bought another place for I think $950. And then I sold it a little over $1 million a couple of years after that because I couldn't afford the payments anymore. Interest rates went from, you know, I think I was under 1.5% to 7%. Yeah, I was floating. I quit my job.
It's insane.
And so now I just rent now. And you know, there's a lot of people like, oh, you have to own it, stuff like that. Like you have to this. And I'm like, no, I'm happy.
You don't
I'm
have
happy.
to do anything. No, you don't have to do anything.
I just need to feed my family. And
the only reason I'm so pro buying is because most of us, myself included, suck at saving money, or I suck at saving money. I shouldn't speak for other people. It's very hard to save money. Even if you make a lot of money, we typically just spend to whatever we have. Yes. That's just human nature. So when you have a mortgage payment, it just forces you to make the payment, and then by default, you're saving money.
Yes.
And time marches on, and it's amazing how quickly time goes. So if it's not you should have some type of savings plan.
David Ramsey says this. People's like, oh, I just want to amortize it over 35 years, and then I'll just pay it off, use it slowly. That only works if you're saving that money, and most people can't do that.
Nobody. No. And the thing is, even if you look at our costs of just groceries and how horrible it's been, real inflation, like nobody has that. Nobody has extra money, right?
That's right. So, that's right. That's fair.
Anyways, it'll be interesting to see how the next. I think that rates will be a lot lower, and then the collateral damage will come.
One thing to add to this, though, is that I think it's really important. There's a lot of fear around this stuff, right? People like fear being poor, or like not making their payments, or not having these things, or what's going to happen. Yeah. Am I going to lose my house and stuff like that? If you're a Christian,
none of it really matters.
There's one thing that comes up in the Bible all the time, and it's God saying, "Fear not."
No.
Like we don't need to worry and be scared. Like God will take care of you, and He promises that, and you can trust Him. Like He can be trusted. There's so much evidence for that. And so get on your knees and pray and give it over, and life gets better. Like I've been there, and I can definitely attest to it personally. I think you have to.
And no amount of money will bring any peace.
No, often it brings more stress.
It makes more stress. Yeah. Everything you have owns a little piece of you.
Yes. Everything you have owns a little piece of you. I love that quote. Thanks for listening. We're going to go into overtime and keep going with our evening. So if you want to listen to that, head on over to patreon.com/furiouslycurious. Link is in the description.
From now on, we're not going to use any foul language.
What was foul language?
Yeah.
Ooh, did I just go against her?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Meant to talk to you about it before.
Okay. That actually reminds me.
Some people find it really offensive. I've grown up with that just being a totally normal word.
I remember when I worked at Jake's, there was a lady beside me. She goes, you're always swearing. And I was like quite proud of myself that I didn't swear. And, I'm like, I never swear. She's like, what are you talking about? She goes, you always say the S word. I'm like, what's the S word? And it just shows you how cultural things are different. Like as growing up, my parents.
So I just feel like we don't want to be offensive. So I just thought, hey, we're going to try. We don't want a big E on our podcast. That'd be really derogatory.
I don't want to be someone on the podcast that I'm not out publicly. So If I should, then I should work on it privately as well. I'll give you that. Okay.
I knew this would be confrontational. Wrap her up. Let's go in overtime.
Yes. So if you want to watch that, you can watch it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now too. So I appreciate that support, and it allows me to go keep making more awesome content. So cheers. See you next week.
Have a great week.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed that episode and were blessed by it, would you be willing to support the show? That would help a lot in creating more content, improving the quality of the content, putting the production value. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that episode and were blessed by it, would you be willing to support the show? That would help. If you're interested in doing that, you can create more content and improving the quality of the content. Subscribe to the podcast. Hey guys, if you enjoyed that episode and were blessed by it, would you be willing to support the show?